I'm humbled and honored to accept the great responsibility of this appointment as president of Ohio Dominican University. I'm also awed and reassured by the great passion for this university on the part of so many people, as exemplified by the kind greetings we've just heard. I want to thank the Dominican Sisters of Peace, their leadership team, and prioress, Sister Pat Toohill, for the inspiration they provide to our students, our faculty, our staff, and to me. You are a treasure, and we are blessed by your strength and your heritage. More about that in just a moment. Thank you, Bishop Campbell, for being a part of this day, both at Mass earlier and for your role here today. I want to share with all of you that the bishop not only is a member of our board, but he graciously took time from his schedule to join me on a tour of diocesan high schools this past year. The impact of those visits is already showing in greatly increased interest in Ohio Dominican University from Catholic high schools and parents. And in fact, just next Thursday, we'll be hosting 300 sophomores and juniors from Catholic high schools for the first time. So I'm very grateful, Bishop Campbell. Council President Hardin, you were with us at the beginning of the year to mark the rollout of our solar lighting project under the umbrella of the Smart Columbus initiative. So it's an honor to have you back on our campus. Matt, Myra, Nicole, Sharon, Emily, I look forward to continuing to work with trustees, alumni, faculty, staff, and students to advance Ohio Dominican University toward our shared goals and aspirations. Thanks to the members of the Inauguration Steering Committee, art students, the choir, so many others who have been working for months to make this day possible. I can't tell you how much it means to Jen and to me. Welcome to Franciscan Father Tom Nairn, who earlier celebrated Mass with Bishop Campbell and our priest chaplain, Father Paul Colleton. Father Tom is Provincial Minister of Sacred Heart Province of the Order of Friars Minor. We worked together at Quincy University in Illinois, where I served as president, and Father Tom continues to serve as chair of the Board of Trustees. Thank you, Tom. It's also an honor to be able to share this occasion with so many colleagues from higher ed, so many friends from elsewhere and Columbus, as well as with members of my family. My wonderful wife, Jen, my wonderful and partner, our daughters, Claire, Irene, and Sarah's fiance, Colin, and our grandchildren, Sophia and Francis, who bring us joy beyond measure. As an aside, this is the first time all of us, because we are dispersed, it's America, this is the first time we've all been able to be together in 7 years. I also want to specifically thank 3 other friends who really are family members who came from a distance to share this time with us. Susan Stogel, Joe Gearing, and Chuck Flynn, thank you so much. We love you. And a special thanks, of course, to Dominican University President Donna Carroll for that very kind and generous introduction. Donna has been a colleague, mentor, and dear friend for many years, and Jen and I are thrilled, Donna, that now we also are your brother and sister in the Dominican family. And thanks to all of you, really, for being here today. I have to tell you that I absolutely love being the chief spokesperson and advocate for this amazing institution. It's a role I feel very comfortable in and constantly energized by. I relish it. At the same time, as you know, as you can see, I'm Italian. I can get emotional, and Jen is always, I know Jen is sitting there saying, "Keep it together, Bob." I mean, you're not, you're an adult now. Come on. So I'm working on it. So I really appreciate your indulgence, and I look forward beyond this formal ceremony to many informal conversations afterward, today and in the months and years to come. So I'd like to frame my remarks this afternoon from 3 vantage points. First, we'll reflect on our history. As the Roman philosopher, note Roman, Bishop, Roman, not Greek, as the Roman philosopher Seneca suggested 2,000 years ago, our sense of history shapes our capacity for gratitude. So history is important. Then we'll look through the lens of faith, since we are a Catholic Dominican institution. Finally, we'll look toward the future as we journey forward confidently together. On balance, it's most important to recall where we've been and what makes us who we are in order to embrace more fully where we're going. So, some history. And Matt Yuskowicz and I did not confer on our remarks. 67 years ago, our Dominican mothers brought forth upon this region a new college conceived in charity and dedicated to the proposition that to contemplate truth and to share truth in action with and for others will bring us peace, prosperity, true freedom, and joy. That sentence expresses the essence of why we are here today. Everything else we say is elaboration. That sentence also, I know, sounds something like the opening of the Gettysburg Address. And for that, I beg your indulgence. Unlike Matt was kind enough to do for me, I would never presume to compare myself to Abraham Lincoln personally, but I couldn't help but notice some curious connections in our respective circumstances. The most obvious, of course, Matt already, stepped on my line. Lincoln was the 16th president of our great nation, and you have given me the honor to serve as the 16th president of our beloved university. Also, Lincoln spoke at Gettysburg in 1863, which is 87 years, 87, after the U.S. was founded as reckoned from the signing of the Declaration of Independence. The college that eventually became Ohio Dominican University was founded in 1911. That's 107 years ago. Not 4, but 57. A similar resonance to Lincoln's famous opening phrase. I just couldn't resist it. But the deepest and most relevant connection is about respect and reverence. Lincoln had profound respect and reverence not only for the fallen heroes at Gettysburg, but also for the founding heroes of our nation. He respected them for their vision, their wisdom, and their courage. In like manner, and I know all of us, have a deep gratitude and respect for the Dominican sisters who first came to Somerset in Perry County, Ohio in 1830 to found a boarding school for girls called St. Mary's Convent and Academy. The commitment to education of those very early sisters, Benvin and Angela Sansbury, among others, not to mention all the sisters who followed, and their courage in challenging circumstances was nothing short of astonishing. The sisters' achievement is even more astonishing in view of the social restrictions that women often faced, then as now. Nevertheless, they persisted. And the persistence and passion of those early sisters continues today through all of us who have been inspired by their example. In that context, it is appropriate that this weekend we also celebrate the feast of Catherine of Siena, the great 14th century Dominican saint and teacher. And President Carroll was right. We did choose this weekend for this event deliberately to coincide with St. Catherine's feast. In fact, yesterday, Professor Matt Panesi gave a wonderful lecture about St. Catherine's commitment to the common good. Her passion and prophetic spirit was legendary, and she has often been associated with the image of fire, a core Dominican motif going all the way back to St. Dominic's mother, Jane of Azza. Jane dreamt that she was about to give birth to a dog with a flaming torch in its mouth, the idea being that the world would catch fire with the passion of St. Dominic's preaching. I should acknowledge, as our students will know, that Catching Fire also is the title of the second Hunger Games movie, but St. Dominic came first. Fire, of course, is a part of our university's emblem, and it is also embedded in St. Catherine's most famous exhortation, "Be who God created you to be, and you will set the world on fire." Of course, fire can not only warm things up, it can also burn things down, and the early Dominican sisters in Somerset knew that dual meaning of creation and destruction. They knew that all too literally. On June the 7th, 1866, disaster struck in Somerset. A fire broke out in the Academy Chapel. No lives were lost, but within minutes, the entire convent and academy and most of its contents, to quote a newspaper account at the time, were a hopeless prey to the devouring flames. Fortunately, a nearby community of Dominican friars offered refuge to the sisters and the academy for 2 years in an available building on the grounds of the former St. Joseph College, which had closed shortly after the outbreak of the Civil War. The sisters had always determined to rebuild. They persisted. They wanted to rebuild St. Mary's Convent and Academy, but where? Despite the treasured home they had lost in the fire and the treasured memories from Somerset they held on to, they decided to accept an invitation to start anew in Columbus. They did so exactly 150 years ago, in 1868. The new foundation in Columbus was named St. Mary's of the Springs Convent and Academy to distinguish it from the old St. Mary's in Somerset. Columbus Bishop Sylvester Rosecrans suggested the name, adding the springs, after he apparently noticed some bubbling springs on the property. Every time we occasionally get a leak somewhere, doesn't happen too often, but I kind of imagine Bishop Rosecrans kind of looking down and sort of smiling mischievously. By the way, Bishop Rosecrans was the first bishop of the Diocese of Columbus, which also was founded in 1868. And so we congratulate Bishop Campbell on the sesquicentennial celebration of the diocese this year. And in 1911, the Dominican Sisters of St. Mary's of the Springs, today the Dominican Sisters of Peace, secured a charter to found a college, which today is Ohio Dominican University. So we are grateful to the sisters for their resolve, their example, and their faith, which continue to animate us. Now let's talk a bit more directly about faith. because our university is joyfully Catholic and Dominican. Grace to you and peace. The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the communion of the Holy Spirit be with you all. If you are a Roman Catholic, you will recognize those words from the alternate greetings that begin the Mass, the celebration of the Eucharist. And Eucharist, of course, Greek, means thanksgiving. The greetings are rooted in the Christian affirmation of the Holy Trinity. If you are a member of another Christian community, you will recognize those words either from other liturgies or from Scripture, especially the letters of St. Paul. Members of other religious traditions, such as our Jewish and Muslim sisters and brothers, will respect the acknowledgement of the love of God. And each of us, whether religious or not, whether Buddhist or Hindu or Unitarian or agnostic or atheist or seeker of any description, each of us can embrace the heartfelt wish that grace and peace and love and communion, whatever their source, might be with us all. Grace and peace and communion and love. Those are the transcendent values that anchor the 4 Dominican pillars on which our university stands: prayer, study, community, and service. Grace is the source of prayer. Peace is the necessary condition for study. Our sense of communion prompts us to work for the common good. And service has its most transformative impact when it is the expression of love. Grace and peace and communion and love, prayer, study, community, and service. These values bridge the apparent divide between persons of different religious faiths, or between different expressions of the same faith, or between persons of no religious faith at all. Or they can also bridge the divide between persons who regrettably might confuse narrow ideology with expansive faith. For surely each of us, as we open our eyes each morning in thanksgiving, for the incredible gift of a new day, surely each of us can earnestly pray or simply wish that our day and our world be filled with grace and peace and communion and love, made manifest in prayer and reflection, in study, in community, in service. At Ohio Dominican, these values animate our commitment to excellence in teaching and learning, our commitment to excellence everywhere in student support, in our core curriculum, in career preparation, in community outreach, in everything we do to encourage the pursuit of truth in a spirit of love. It is a culture in which the excellence of the Dominican tradition in education takes root and grows. It is a culture in which in classrooms, in labs, in campus activities, on playing fields, in casual conversations, students come to experience the joyful epiphany of understanding, of ideas coming alive, of words being made flesh, of their own becoming who God created them to be so that they can set the world on fire. And it's a culture that enables us, in our academic programs, to adapt to changing times and emerging needs in our society and economy, while continuing to integrate the humanities, arts, and sciences in a thoughtful, purposeful educational experience. So faith. Now, looking forward, I pondered for some time on how best to comment on our present strengths and strategic vision. There's a lot I could say. I could, but I won't, list all the elements of the university's nearly completed new strategic plan, framed around 5 integrated areas of focus, which the entire university community has been involved in shaping over the past 9 months. I could, but I won't, recite a catalog of the university's achievements, such as regional and national recognition for our faculty's excellence in teaching and research, championships won by the Panthers on the basketball court and the football field, positioning them for even greater success going forward, student successes in academics, as well as dramatic increases in graduates' placement in jobs and in graduate school, and the outstanding commitment of students and colleagues engaged in community service, both locally, regionally, and abroad. I could, but I won't, list many points of contact among colleagues on campus with business and civic leaders in the broader community to ensure that our students and graduates are well prepared to contribute to our region's economic and cultural development. I could, but I won't, spell out the key challenges facing higher education generally, especially independent higher education, and how those challenges are likely to affect Ohio Dominican. All those strategic topics merit extended discussion, especially in informal dialogue rather than in a formal speech. And besides, to do them justice would take all day and longer, and I want you to stay awake for the reception. And while specific strategic initiatives are important, the overarching point, as management guru Peter Drucker famously put it, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Culture is vastly more important. Ohio Dominicans' warm, inclusive, proactive culture, rooted in the Dominican Catholic intellectual and spiritual tradition, especially the Dominican pillars of prayer, study, community, and service, that culture is the North Star that guides all considerations of strategy. And that conviction about culture is what I've tried to emphasize in these remarks. For now, let me simply highlight 3 elements of our vision, what I see as our kind of navigational compass. First, I see Ohio Dominican University continuing to build on our historic mission commitments and academic strengths, seeking and sharing truth in action as well as study, the compatibility of faith and reason in an environment of respectful and often challenging dialogue, what Dominicans call disputatio, which means not antagonistic debate, but literally thinking things through together. And the impact of the humanities, arts, and sciences in guiding students, not only from college to career, which we do well, but what we do equally well, and more importantly, guide them from college to career with character and compassion. Second, I see Ohio Dominican continuing to build on our tradition of inclusion, welcoming all students who seek academic excellence, with particular support for first-generation students. This means strengthening our outreach to and support of misunderstood and marginalized persons, such as racial and ethnic minorities, LGBTQ students, and international students. Such support is consistent with our Catholic Dominican mission and indeed the mandate of the gospel. Finally, I see Ohio Dominican University deepening our commitment to enhance the economic development and quality of life in our city and in our region. This means renewed involvement in our immediate neighborhoods as well as the larger Columbus region. I'm pleased that we've already begun that process through strengthening connections with a number of community leaders and organizations, such as the Columbus Chamber of Commerce, Columbus 2020, and of course, Columbus City Council. This commitment to outreach also means that we will continue to develop a flexible and market-responsive academic program portfolio that is consistent with our strengths and our mission. Science and technology, allied health professions, education, and business are among the areas we've identified for still more intensive program development. In short, our university's ongoing success in fulfilling its mission will depend on a careful yet bold embrace of both tradition and innovation. It will depend on many alumni and friends who, along with faculty, staff, and students, catch the fire of this mission and are willing to feed those creative flames by contributing their time, talent, and treasure to its success. And it will depend on our ongoing discernment together in rapidly changing and challenging times of what to hold on to, what to let go of, and what to move forward toward with confidence. In that spirit of discernment, I'd like to close by sharing a poem written in 1968 by a Dominican sister of St. Mary's of the Springs, today the Dominican Sisters of Peace, on the 100th anniversary of the sisters' move from Somerset in Perry County to Columbus. The poet, Sister Estelle Casalandra, taught English at Ohio Dominican for many years. She now lives in the Communion of Saints and in the hearts of those who knew her, as well as in her writings about the history of her Dominican community. The poem is called, appropriately enough, The 100th Year. From our vantage point, we might also call it the 150th year, or any year, or any day in which we resolve to live a life and promote a culture of grace and peace and communion and love. The 100th year. Customs are in and for time and place, like April rain and mountain snow. But in the evergreen here and now of meaning, branches of custom wither and cease to grow. The pruning of branches is an art, like the making of a painting or a song. It cannot be too much or too little if the roots are to remain rooted and strong. Those women who left Perry County's green hills lived well this green secret 100 years ago. That the many small nostalgias of the heart cannot all be kept. That some must sometimes go. Yielding with grace the 1,000 inconsequentials. They brought with them only the triangled essentials, their daily bringing to the offertory of God's people, the wheat of their will, the wine of their love, the incense of their vows. These were their heritage. These are ours still.